everyone, welcome to another episode of I Can Do This All Day. I'm Dan, the Part-Time Avenger, and with me as always is Mark, the Resident Jedi.
Hello there. Sticking with our October theme of everything kind of scary, maybe a little, I don't know, but tis the season to watch some scary things, and sticking with our roots of comic and worldly nerdiness, we decided this week to tackle Werewolf by Night.
Werewolf by Night. So Marvel's newest special presentation. So not necessarily a movie, not necessarily a TV show, but a special presentation. So Mark, how did you hear about this special presentation?
You had mentioned that it was coming out, and I asked you, is it a movie? And you're like, it's kind of a movie. And it is. I'm trying to still wrap my head around special presentation.
I have no idea either. But with Werewolf by Night, I had heard about it at D23, and then I just forgot about it, and then I realized, like, oh, they meant that they were releasing it this year. So I was like, I guess we should watch this. It's October, werewolves and shit. So let's check it out.
So, did you have any generalized expectations going into this? Because I honestly had not heard of this specific like comic area or story. I was more when I read comics into like the bigger names, the X-Men, Spider-Man, that kind of thing, right? The bigger stuff. And I never got into like the classic monster stuff, which, I mean, Marvel digs into a lot. We saw a little bit of that with Moon Knight, that they got into some mythology, and werewolves definitely kind of get you there.
Yeah, with this particular I guess special presentation. I guess I'm probably going to call this a movie as we're going through, because I can't fucking say special presentation, which, by the way, Marvel is going to be coming out with more special presentations, whatever the hell that means. But yeah, so I, at face value, never heard of it, didn't know what it was about. I saw the trailer and I was like, well, that looks different. I have no idea who these people are. And then I was thinking, like, I've never seen werewolves really in any of my old comics, with the exception of when Captain America turned into a werewolf. And so there was like other
I remember
werewolf
that
versions. Yeah, I have the episode sitting right over there, or the issue sitting right over there. But yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it. Never really looked up anything prior to. And then, believe it or not, when we were watching it, I paused it really quick and I was like, wait. And I turned to my son, do you know anything about this? And he muttered in his, little 9-year-old or 8-year-old voice and said, like, yeah, we saw this with like a Hulk cartoon, and there's Man-Thing and then a werewolf. So apparently I saw a Hulk cartoon and some of these, I think it was a Halloween themed episode. It's probably on Disney Plus. And it had a few of these creatures. So that's about all that I knew about it. But it wasn't until halfway through that I was watching it. I was like, this sort of sounds familiar, but I don't know any of these people who are. So very surprising for me going into it. It was pretty much fresh. My first exposure to a lot of this stuff that I can recall.
Yeah, I was in completely unknown, and I was just kind of happy about it. To be honest, because it's one of the first things that I've watched in a minute that it's like, well, other than Fresh, you dick, that I was like, oh, well, this is something new. Like, it's kind of a nice to have something new that's not based off of, right? Like, I haven't been able to get into the new Game of Thrones yet because I'm just like, I'll just binge it when it's all there. I'm not ready to get back into Game of Thrones mode yet. And I'm waiting on Andor for all the episodes because I don't want the downer episodes. Same thing with She-Hulk, where it's like, I just want to see the whole thing at once. So I was a fan of the idea of a single presentation, as special as it may be. And the first thing that caught me about this is it felt old-timey horror movie, and I was all about that. They started in black and white, and I'm like, no way they actually show this in black and white. One, I'm thinking Dan's gonna hate it because he hates black and white. And
Wait, why? Why
two,
do you think
I
I
was like,
hate black and white?
let's go. You've mentioned it before on the podcast.
I guess, if I had a preference, I'm going to watch something in color, but I wouldn't say that I hate black and white movies.
Yeah, the hypocrisy is strong in that statement. But I think that I was sold a little bit more because I remember, watching like more classic horror movies where the suspense was built by the lack of visibility, and just the black and whiteness just gave it kind of a nostalgic feel, which, I mean, if you're going to get into werewolves and stuff like that, like that's not new, right? It's not Taylor Lautner. We're good. Give me the old school. And I was a fan of it, right? And it helped some of the outlining of the characters. It gave them, it just gave it something for me, which I was a big fan of. Did you hate the black and white?
No, I liked it. And I didn't expect it to go to somewhat color at the end. Or actually, no, it was full color at the end. So I didn't really expect it. I thought it was just going to be old time feel. I wasn't quite sure when everything was happening, just because it had that old time feel. They had the hand drawn graphic of the Avengers, and then went into the backstory of everything. But I didn't necessarily think that it was in present day. But yeah, I thought, I agree with you 100%. It added to the whole almost, movie theater type of shindig. Like, oh, we're going to the movies, and it's gonna be like the music is driving the narrative, and that's one of the things that I really really liked about it. And yeah, I would say that if it was in color, I don't know if it would have worked as well. So
I agree. I think the black and white added something, especially with pacing. I don't know about you, the special presentation format. I was like, oh, it's only an hour. I could have used more on the backstory piece, right? I could have used a little bit more on the episodic beginning. They kind of like they went old school radio man. Wow, and they went really fast through the backstory, and then bam, this is where we are, which is fine from a storytelling perspective. Like I get the tool. I wanted more on the front end, but by the end of it, I was very satisfied.
I wonder though if they just did that by design because maybe they thought, I don't know if anyone's going to give a shit about Ulysses Bloodstone and all these other monsters. I totally understand where you're coming from, because if I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw a Wendigo in the initial montage when they were talking about stuff. So Wendigo is near and dear to my heart, because that's obviously the first time that Wolverine came into the Hulk comics. He actually fought Wendigo and the Hulk in the comics. And also, who can forget that 1992 Konami classic of X-Men in the arcade, and Wendigo as one of the bosses and just saying his name over and over again. That was pretty awesome. So I was kind of hoping to see a Wendigo. My son was also super excited to see that. He's like, oh, is that Wendigo? Like, I think so, buddy. I think we might see something. Sure as shit, we didn't see Wendigo.
You did not. You did not. You and the other 6 players on the X-Men cabinet were disappointed.
Yeah. But what about your thoughts on the pace to the actual action of the special presentation?
I thought it was on pace with, I don't want to say old-timey horror, but it wasn't super fast-paced. Like they got where they wanted it and they took their time through. They did the jump scares, they did the corner turns, they did their own little, ooh, I'm locked in the mortuary situation and I gotta find my way out. Like they slow played it a little bit, which I enjoyed. Like I thought the pacing was overall was good, and they did some things that I enjoyed. and that I was just like, oh, well, this is great. Nobody got barbecued. There was no harvesting of people parts. So again, this is way better of a movie suggested by you than we may have watched earlier this month.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with you in terms of the pacing. I actually didn't think that. I thought the movie went longer. It seemed a whole lot longer than the 56 minutes because they did it so well. I was thinking like, oh gosh, this thing's gonna be over in like 5 minutes. But maybe that was just me in the back of my head thinking this is gonna go quick. But I thought there was enough of the story and enough of character building in at least the way that everyone interacted with each other to be like, oh, these are a bunch of hunters. Elsa is an estranged daughter of the family, and she's back, but she's not 100% killer, but she's got some skills. And so, yeah, I liked from scene to scene. I thought it was a very good flow. I don't think it moved slow. I don't think it was too fast. I don't think anything was rushed. If anything, they did a really good job of stretching out that material over the 56 minutes. So I remained interested every step of the way.
Yeah, no, there wasn't a point where I looked away like, oh, it's boring. I think that I almost wanted more hunter interactions as we moved through it. Like there was you got the one guy that was like the troll from the fucking Tolkien movies with his weird axe and his angriness. And you got Elsa and you got Jack, but you really didn't get some of the others that were there that looked like, okay, what's your thing? Like, what's your talent? Like, let's do it. Let's have a full on episodic Scott Pilgrim situation where you got to go through all the levels here.
I would have loved to see a little stat card or like almost like a video game intro, like here is Joven, and then like it shows his skills.
So you wanted Werewolf by Scott Pilgrim, is
I
what you're
would have
saying.
loved that. That would have been really cool because I would have been a little bit more invested as to, oh, this guy's gonna be a badass, or oh, this person's not a threat whatsoever. One of them, and I didn't really know any of their names, but I believe it was Leorn. At least that's the only thing that I can guess because he's the only guy with a somewhat Asian name. And I thought when they referred to them as death dealers, I thought that he was the death dealer from Shang-Chi without his mask. So I was thinking, oh, cool. Maybe that's some type of connection. But obviously, that guy died, and, probably not.
He gone.
Yeah. Along with everyone else for the most part.
Yeah, no, they're all pretty much
Yeah.
gone there. Yeah. Some of the characters were pretty great. And I thought it was amazing that you got one of the best visual effects people in the business in front of the camera in this show in Kirk Thatcher.
What does his work consist of?
He did visual effects for the Star Wars movies, for a lot of the Muppet things, for RoboCop. He's got
RoboCop 1987 or 2000?
RoboCop 1990, RoboCop 2.
Oh, okay.
He did
Even
some
better.
stuff. Yeah. He did he did a lot of Muppets stuff through the years. And in this, he directed a lot of Muppets and did a lot of that stuff. And in this, he was the why can't I pull his name off the top of my head? He was Jovan, the bearded guy, the Viking dude.
Oh, that guy.
That I was referencing. Yeah. I don't know why there was that pause and my brain had to reboot. Sorry. But yeah, no, he was that guy. And I was just, it's such a such a change up from what he did, but somebody that, has a lot of good writing credits for different things, and did a lot of Muppety stuff, which, as you know, big fan. But you got to see him not under a puppet, um, which I thought was, I was like, oh, I've seen him on documentaries.
Yeah, he was probably my favorite character, with the exception of Elsa. Just because I loved his. He reminded me of Torment from Game of Thrones. And so I was like, oh, yeah, this guy's badass. And so I was kind of hoping that he would have been around a little bit longer, maybe even a survivor, and then he might become a threat in
Mm.
future iterations or special presentations. That would have been pretty cool. But yeah, I did enjoy him. The other ones, uh, I don't know, kind of forgettable. They were cool for the few lines of dialogue they had, but obviously you've got Jack and Elsa. Do you know who Gail Garcia Bernal is? That's the person who played Jack.
When I was watching it, I did not.
Have you
Did you?
seen? Yeah, I've seen a show on HBO Max with him called Station 11. Have you ever seen that?
I have not.
It's a very interesting premise, and it's a little bit of a slow burn in the sense that you kind of don't know what the hell is going on. It kind of does like some Tarantino-ish jumps back and forth, and different characters somehow all come together somehow. It's worth a watch. And the person that was in Terminator, I can't remember her name, but the most recent Terminator, Dark Fate, the female protector, she was in it, and she was pretty badass also. And same thing with Gail Garcia Bernal. But yeah, he was a very interesting character in that he played an actor, and I like his overall charisma and his persona that he portrays in these two things that I've watched him. And I thought that it was very fitting because here he is, this mild mannered person, and it kind of goes into it just when they're talking about the roll call of like, you have 27 kills, you have 50, and then all of a sudden it comes to over 100 to the meek, you know
Hmm.
slight guy that's just very shy at the beginning. It was like, oh, you're a badass, you 100 kills, no fucking way. And I thought that was pretty cool. And he was very, I was like, yeah, it's not a big deal. But I did enjoy him. But what were your thoughts on him as the werewolf? And did you know that he was the werewolf?
You knew something was up with the dude, right? But I think that it became more and more evident as he was kind of more chill towards like Man Thing, when they figured out that was what was going on. But I gotta back up a minute before we get to that. Did you know what the Bloodstone was?
No, had no idea.
Did your wife ask you if it was an Infinity Stone?
No, but it's shiny and red. So I mean, I could see why someone might think that. Is that what your wife said?
I may have been asked if it was an Infinity Stone, and I was like, no, they all those are gone. That's not. I don't know. But yeah, I'm like, no, there's a lot of fancy stones in Marvel.
Yeah, that was I had never heard of it. I did not do any research for this after the fact either. I really wanted to just take this as a one-off, not go super into it. I wouldn't be opposed to going further into the mythology and all the different storylines of everything, but what I didn't want to do is become too invested in these characters because I have a feeling we might not ever see them again. And so that was one of the reasons why I chose not to do any reading about stuff after.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That this could be a very just quick one-off, or something that's visited not that much. Though I would love to see something like this. Like it almost lines up like a Marvel Twilight Zone kind of thing. Like, okay, we'll give you horror movies not directed by Sam Raimi and not hilariously terrible, like Doctor Strange, and we'll give you like, some actual Marvel monsters kind of stuff. I would be all about that. I think there's a very big audience for like a Swamp Thing and Man Thing in that whole universe. Um, and I think it could open up a lot of just more options for Marvel. It's really funny. Like the Marvel stable is so big and so vast that nobody scratched the surface on it yet. That being said, that's why I didn't know who the werewolf was. Um, I, 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 I guess with a name like Jack Russell, you'd assume that there's some kind of dog situation going on,
Yeah,
but I don't think I heard that his name was Jack Russell.
right.
Um,
Just Jack, from what I
yeah,
remember.
yeah, just Jack. But some of the face paint and stuff, you knew he was going to be interesting as it came through. But um, speaking of interesting, before we get into his relationship with Man Thing, I could not ignore the puppet show in the introduction to this maze situation. Like, I've seen some interesting funerals on, the big screen or in movies, right? Like the Andy Kaufman funeral where there was a sing along was really kind of weird and funny. The funeral in Love Actually where they play the Bay City Rollers was funny yet sad in its own way. But I've never seen somebody make themselves an animatronic and have a music box coffin.
That did that was funny, and I was surprised that they did something like that because it is funny, creepy, unsettling for those in attendance. So it was cool to see that different dynamic of like, okay, well, yeah, it's funny, but this is kind of wrong at the same time. It didn't bother me. I wasn't disturbed by it or anything, but I liked that there was that level of campiness to it, which it was right up my alley.
I love the idea of that guy having no idea who Ulysses Bloodstone is, right? This dude, as he's getting older, or as he's like getting ready to die and thinking about it, like just tinkering and building himself a little animatronic man. Like it just makes me laugh a little bit to think like that's not something that can be thrown together. That's been prepared.
Yeah, yeah.
That's been prepared. The joke at the end, the dad joke was prepared. Like the whole thing. And it's just like that servant or whatever you want to call him, right? Like the dude who plays cranks the calliope, has been waiting to do that for a very long time, and it's just great. Like I thought it was funny.
Oh
I,
wait,
I
so
wanted the Muppet Show theme to play.
you thought it was the servant that did it?
What?
You thought that the servant was the one that planned it?
No, no, but he had to be told to crank it and he
Oh,
had to
right,
know
right.
what it was. He was probably like Alfred helping him build that shit. Like,
Mm,
well, sir, we can articulate all of your arms and fingers, but you have to stay in the enclosure. Like, just
maybe, yeah,
imagine that conversation. Like, that's the stuff that I want to see. Like, just
yeah.
show me the coffin music box planning session.
Why did Ulysses Bloodstone, based off of the drawings, look more like a Native American than the guy that was in the coffin?
I feel like the butler did a bad job of skin stretching him onto the thing.
That was an old white dude. That was like the Crypt Keeper or Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt. And I mean, am I alone thinking that in those sketches at the beginning of the movie that he looked like full blown Native American? Because he looked like the character Shaman from Alpha Flight. If
Yeah,
you've
he
seen,
had like long hair and was
yeah,
like ready to go. He
yeah,
had no hair in this.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I thought it was funny.
I liked the effort because it reminded me of the Haunted Mansion ride. And so you have some of those cheesy one-liners and the end of the end line, I'll be rotting for you. Like, yeah, yeah, you will be rotting for them. Clever, clever, sir.
Oh,
Oh, Ulysses.
welcome, foolish hunters.
Exactly. What did you think about the widow of Ulysses, Verussa Bloodstone? Not very happy to see Elsa, who we'll talk about in just a little bit, but she's just very the powerful step matriarch
Oh, she was
of
a
the
gold
Bloodstone
digger,
family.
right?
Yeah,
She was just trying to jump on some coattails and be important, right? But dude was just like, shut up. Just shut your mouth. And like it was obvious that his daughter had received like a good amount of training, but then shied away from the family business, I guess. And I mean, there's always that disagreement with step parents or whatever, right? Because they didn't say that was her mom, right?
right. I wanted to know. Okay, so if she followed in her mom's footsteps, who was her mom? Not one single word was said about the mom. So if there was one complaint that I had about the setup of everything, and any string that was left untied, it would be that right there.
Who is Elsa Bloodstone's mom?
Tell me. I just want to know. And I didn't, like I said, I didn't do any research. I just want to know. But apparently not that badly because I did look it up.
Yeah, no, that's very true that you did not look it up.
But what did you think about Elsa?
I didn't mind her. There wasn't a lot of backstory as to like the whole her she must have trained with her father. Pure assumption because nobody talks about it. Like there wasn't a lot there, but she showed up, she kicked a little ass, and she was like, "Okay, you're supposed to be here. I get it."
That first almost Black Widow like scene or action scene where she like jumps up on the guy and takes him down. I was like, oh, all right, I like her. But I also have a thing for dark-haired Irish girls, and hence my wife. And so I was like, ooh, I kind of like this lady. Like she's got a little bit of ass kicker in her, and you know what? She has that Irish look that apparently that I dig. So
Apparently, black and white, everybody looks a little pale. Did you recognize right away Man Thing? I didn't until you saw the full form.
yeah, exactly. I didn't see it until I saw his face. The face was pretty. I was like, oh, that's Man Thing, but they never referred to him as Man Thing. And that was one of the funny things is they're just like, oh, that's Ted, and like the entire family just started laughing at that. Where do you know who Man Thing is? Do you know a lot about
I
that?
don't know a lot. I know it's in that like Swamp Thing, Man Thing, organic world,
Mhm.
but I don't know much. And that's where, like, I was like, oh, that's not Swamp Thing, but that's that I've seen that character. Um, but I didn't get it from like the first scene where the hand comes out and you see the face. I got it when you saw him in full form, and I was like, I know that character from something.
Yeah, I just liked. I just love the fact that they just called him Ted. It's like, oh, that's Ted, because there are some people that don't know who Man Thing is, and they've never heard of them, and they're just thinking like, oh, can I get a Ted costume for Halloween? Or like, oh, cool, Ted's my favorite Marvel character now, just because they never said his name in the movie special presentation. But yeah, so he's supposed to be like Swamp Thing, except not. Not the same type of origin story, and he has some other type of power. And
Yeah, he has the power to make people disappear.
He's had another movie, I believe, back in like 2005. It was like one of those uh, lesser known Marvel releases. And so he had his own movie back in the day. And it was just ripped to shreds. Like no one gave a shit about it. Everyone basically shat on it. And I never watched it, but I don't know. I think I might want to watch it now just so I can get a different different characterization and better understanding of Man Thing or Ted.
2005 monster film.
I think it was right around the time of Kick Ass because it was like the same type of property that Marvel owns, and now obviously it's more in like the main continuity of the Marvel comics, but it was
Mm-hmm.
like the offshoot of Marvel to where they had Kick Ass, Man Thing came out around the same time, but Kick Ass actually got a theatrical release.
Like I said, I'd be down for more info on these characters. I think that one of the things I struggle with Marvel right now is I don't know where they're going.
Yeah, I've got a big problem with that. And well, I take that back. It's not a big problem. I am just consistently asking myself, why? Why is this important? Why is this person here? Why is that person in that TV series? Why are they in this movie? There's so
Why is
many.
Echo getting her own series? Why does
Oh,
that matter?
don't even talk about that. Oh. So, do you know the actress in Echo, like what her backstory as to how she to that got to that role? And so basically, they set out a casting call for someone who was deaf and someone who was of the right ethnic background, and then ta-da, she showed up. So that's kind of what based off of what I had read and also what I had heard, that's kind of what happened, and that's why she's not the greatest actor because she isn't an actor. But I thought she did okay
Yeah, I was
in
gonna say, I'm like,
Hawkeye.
I thought she did good.
Yeah,
I didn't
but
know she wasn't an actor.
yeah, I guess that's like her first thing, and so now she has a spin-off, and so we'll see what happens with that.
There hasn't been a series that I really haven't liked.
That you haven't liked, so you've
Yeah,
liked all of them.
yeah. Though I haven't watched, I'm not fully caught up.
I've enjoyed all of them, but there are some that I will never care to watch ever again.
But I don't know. I think the challenge is not knowing what is going to tie into the greater MCU and what's just there for entertainment. I feel like my wife does watching Star Wars stuff because I watched all the Clone Wars cartoons and all that stuff, and like I'm picking up stuff that they're doing in these, like the Ahsoka references and that whole series that's coming out and the Tales of the Jedi that's going to come out and all that, like that's going to reference all these things because Dave Filoni can't help himself. I don't know if Marvel is going to go full depth and bring all of these characters back. Like I don't know if we're going to get um you know what's the America
Chavez.
Chavez in whatever the next Marvel movie is, or if she was just there as a method to calm down Wanda or disengage Wanda.
Well, it's interesting because she's a kid. By the time she might make another appearance, it's going to be like 4 years later. And
Yeah.
so a lot can happen in 4 years. So it's either
Mhm.
recast or if they bring her back, she's like full grown woman, like it's just going to be interesting to see how all this unfolds. But I guess this is all by design. Kevin Feige had said that phase 4 is the aftermath of everything. And in phase 5, you're going to start to get some answers and you're going to start to see the bigger picture of things. So I have a slight fear about Black Panther 2 because that's going to be the next Marvel release that comes out in November. So it's coming out soon. But if that is going to be under the same umbrella of, oh, we're just dealing with things post snap and how we're going to deal with this, and I am completely just unaware and I have no clue as to what they're going to do in that movie because Chadwick Boseman gone, R.I.P. And where do you go from there? And how do you loop that into the story tastefully? I think we
Well,
talked a little bit about this in previous episodes, but still, man, it's coming up soon. I don't know. I'm trying to stay spoiler free of it, but I've seen a few things on toys and headlines. So yeah, interesting.
we'll have that. That'll be our first November episode. Maybe a special release in there. Maybe we'll do two in a week. Just a Black Panther 2 catch up, like Wakanda right now or Wakanda so far. But I really I agree with you. I'm interested in how things tie in. The one thing that I think we both agree on is Werewolf by Night ain't tying into nothing.
Mm,
Well,
I
no,
mean,
you know what? I take that back because doesn't the Jack Terrier character
Jack
have
Terrier, Jack Russell, Jack
Jack
Russell
Russell?
Terrier.
Jack Russell Terrier. Doesn't the
Yeah.
Jack Russell character have ties to Moon Knight?
I don't know for certain.
I thought
Maybe
there were comic ties where they
there
did
might
stuff
be.
together.
There might be. I honestly thought it would have been more with Blade. So I was thinking like, oh, Blade might have something to do with some of these characters, but also Blade going through a complete rewrite right now, and they lost the director for Blade.
Hmm.
So it's some interesting stuff happening at Marvel.
They might bring Wesley Snipes back. Who knows?
I would be fine with it.
Am I the only person that wants to see Wesley Snipes in the Chris Christopherson role?
That would be cool. That would
That'd
be
be
badass.
amazing.
That'd be really cool.
um,
But then you can't have a white savior for a black baby.
so
I know. I'm just kidding. That's not very Hollywood for for that type of role. But yeah, no, I would be cool with that. I would be 100% fine. And I would. I think it would be a missed opportunity if they didn't have Wesley Snipes participate in that in some way, some fashion, whether it's in that movie or a future role down the road.
yeah.
Multiverse Blade.
Hey, there's gonna be Quantum Mania coming, which sounds like a Toy Story ride. But who knows?
Who does know?
Kevin
Not me.
Feige knows.
I don't know, man. He might not
Kevin
even know either.
Feige. So that guy better be doing sober October and getting all his workouts in because that guy's got to live for a lot longer.
Yeah. They've got the what, 20 years of Marvel planned out?
I don't know, man. That's the one thing that I wish that so I recently intook the Bob Iger like biography thing where he talked about his time at Disney during all those acquisitions. And when they went to acquire Marvel, like they had shit planned out. Like they planned it all. There were scripts, there were things, right? Just like when they acquired Pixar and when they acquired Lucasfilms, there was nothing. There was not much going on and not a lot of people that they could go to get it done. I really wish they had a Kevin Feige for Star Wars. They finally got Favreau and the gang getting things done. But it seems to be one person's vision based on the Clone Wars cartoons. Making that happen, which I'm a fan of. Like I'm totally down. I'll watch another season of Bad Batch, but I really need some more things. But from a Marvel perspective, I love that they did this. Like I'm a fan. I thought that as they get into the maze and you see kind of the some hunters just trying to kill everybody and some working together. That was very cool. I dug that her motivation was just to get the bloodstone, nothing else. She didn't need blood on her hands. She just needed the bloodstone in it.
So, did it surprise you that the hunters were trying to kill each other?
I think they were all just fucking animals, right? And that's kind of a microcosm of are these hunters just predators?
So, isn't it counterproductive to be like, okay, we're going to have the Bloodstone. Whoever gets the Bloodstone will be the new leader and will lead us to another generation of killing monsters. You can't do that if you kill all the other hunters. Like, I didn't understand that.
But I think that was the widow's way of getting most of the hunters to kill off the other hunters so she could get it. Because in the end, she was trying to get that shit
Yeah.
until old girl had the special family grappling hook that she got out of Crazy Aunt's coffin. That was funny. Where she's like, "Oh, my dad always told me stories about my crazy aunt who thought she was coming back from the dead, and here's some keys and an old timey grappling hook." She got the hook shot out of that dungeon, and she was fucking all over the place, bro.
That
All
was
over.
pretty funny. And yeah, like why not be buried with keys and some other
Keys and a hook
goofy
shot.
shit? Yeah.
It was great.
Anything else from like what's your most favorite part of this special presentation?
I think that I enjoyed just the feel of it, right? The black and white feel, the old school feel, right? Like in the same way that I enjoyed that Young Frankenstein was in black and white because it took you as a throwback to all those really old school Dracula Frankenstein movies. I think that's a line of demarcation of where I enjoy the horror genre. There's horror that is unnecessarily just grating, right? And then there's horror presented as paranormal possibilities that I think is more mythology than manslaughter. And I enjoyed that about it. I enjoyed the feel. I was surprised, first of all. Like I said, I did not expect, I didn't watch a trailer. I came into this 100% fresh, and was completely in it from the beginning. Like, oh, cinematic choices, something of value. We haven't seen this in a while in COVID. We've been watching, Jeffrey Dahmer and documentaries that are terrible, but this is like some cinematography to enjoy. Nice.
My favorite scene and scenes always revolved around Elsa. So my favorite scene was just her setting the tone as a character when they're all huddled around and she decides to like drag the chair across the floor and everyone just turns and looks and she just sits down like, what? I don't give a fuck.
Bro, that's a lifted scene.
Yeah, but you know what? Not everyone can execute it. And the way that she sat down, crossed her legs, slouched back in the chair, just like how she's slouched back in the chair at the very end of everything. It's almost as if like, yep, I don't give a fuck about what's going on right now. And then now that she's got the stone, I don't give a fuck about this whole hunting thing, but I've got it. This is mine. But she's not like, oh, world domination or all monsters are gonna die. She did what she had to do, and she's cool as a cucumber, strong female character, and yeah, she just has this aura of I don't give a fuck, which is really refreshing, especially for Marvel, because there's always one or the other. They're either 100% hero or 100% evil. I'm going to take over the world. Very rarely have we seen someone that's just like, whatever, I got it. I'm just gonna go ahead and sip on my drink and sit back and relax, and we'll see what else happens. So that's what I liked about it.
Okay.
Everything revolved around her. Maybe because I don't know, like she's just the protagonist, and the Jack I liked as well, but if I had like a close second for a scene, it would be the non-verbal communication from Man Thing to Jack at the very end, where they're just having a conversation with each other, chuckling about it, and it's like, oh, they're just two old pals, and so I did enjoy that.
I'm with you there. I'm with you there. I liked the Wizard of Oz moment where they showed that she was actually wearing red the whole time. Like,
That was
she
cool.
showed up in the family colors. I guess you'd say, I don't know. But I think that the one thing this thing left me is wanting more. I'm like, give me some more of
Really
this. I would watch this.
interesting.
I
Okay,
wouldn't watch it every week on, but I mean, I would take this as a monthly episodic, right? If they decided to add to it, if they added to the portfolio, I would take this approach to some of Marvel's more out there characters and I think we talked about this as being an if they laid it together properly.
who would you want it to revolve around?
I don't care because I don't know half the characters. Characters I don't know. Introduce me to some new people and then make me be attached to them. I came to the show loving Captain America, right? I came to the show loving some X-Men, loving some Wolverine. I came to the show no, I didn't come to the show loving Iron Man. Actually, was not a fan of Iron Man in the comics, but RDJ first Iron Man movie sold. Give me more, right? I want that feeling repetitively, right? I don't want to say, well, is Evans in this one? Oh, well, that's not going to be that good. Or, Scarlet Witch, am I a big fan? Like, give me something interesting. That's what made WandaVision so cool, is it just presented it to you in a different way. And I think that they've got such talented writers and such a talented group of storytellers and such a huge just vat of stories that they could find a way to give a cinematic view to this that is, really, really good. And it doesn't have to be a weekly, every Thursday kind of thing. It can be monthly. It can be Marvel's, special presentation every month, every year, every quarter. It doesn't matter. But if it's as good as this was, I'd watch it.
So I will go on the opposite side of the spectrum and say that I don't want more of this. The only reason is because I want to be preserved as that special presentation. So let's say, for example, you and I both know that I love Captain America, can do no wrong, and if we were to have more Chris Evans, sure, I absolutely would love that. No problem. But there is that fine line of I don't want more of that same type of narrative or same type of story because you had the send off for Captain America. And granted, we didn't have a send off per se for these characters, but it leaves that mystery as to, oh, Elsa seems like a fairly good person. She didn't want to kill all those people, but at the same time, she got her birthright, which was supposed to be hers to begin with. So really, it happened how it should have happened. Jack and Man Thing or Ted, they won off. He was able to save Ted, no problem, and now they're off doing buddy buddy stuff. So it kind of had an ending, but it left it open. It didn't need to allude to the fact that the stone is actually overpower of all the monsters, and now they're all going to be drawn to the castle. But nothing like that happened, which is cool. And at the time, I was thinking, oh, there might be an end credit scene where there's going to open up the door for something down the road. And you know what? I was bummed that there wasn't an end credit scene just because for Marvel, you expect an end credit scene for everything. But since I didn't see it, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. We waited around for nothing. But at the same time, I was like, no, I mean, I'm pretty happy with where it's at. So that is okay for me. And if I had a preference between more or leave it as it is, I would say leave it as it is because it helps uh, with not tarnishing what I believe is a very good showing for Marvel.
So, for the record, you're not down for Jack and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
I would be open to it, but I would almost prefer that it didn't happen. Now, with that being said, I may have shown my hand on that, but what about you? Can you do Werewolf by Night? Can you do this all day?
I think it's too new for me to make a full do this all day ruling. Would I watch it again? Yeah. Would I watch it? Am I like, I have to watch it again? Is it like after Endgame where I needed to see it in full back into the theaters kind of thing? I don't think I do that. I don't think it's at that level, but it's not at the level of a, trying to think of a Marvel TV show that I would not watch again. But there's a good amount that I'm just like, not really, not queuing it up over.
Would you watch Eternals over this or this over Eternals again?
This over Eternals, hands down.
Okay. All right, just want to make sure where we're at.
That was a stupid question.
Well, hey, that's one of those things where you have a much longer.
That's like, would you eat this white cat poop, or would you eat like a hamburger?
I don't know about that.
That's the level of differentiation you're talking about if you're bringing Eternals into the mix.
All right.
Speaking of bringing Eternals into the mix, if Marvel brings them into anything, I quit.
No. Luckily, they're not going to have Eternals 2 for a while, so looks like you're not quitting for at least another 2 years.
There we go.
So you heard it here today. I Can Do This All Day podcast will go at least 2 years until Eternals 2 comes out.
And we'll never have an Eternals 2 episode, at least with me. Special opportunity for guest hosting.
Special presentation. We're going to need a co-host.
Yeah, first person to put something in the comments that they'd like to host Eternals 2 due to their undying Eternals love, we will keep you in mind.
We'll put it on the invite later on. For 2 years, post-dated. For me, I can do this all day. And I would say that I would be completely fine with watching this like once a month. It's an hour, and it's one of those things where because I don't know these characters, I could probably do some reading on it and just like, oh, I'm gonna watch it again so I can pick up more on Elsa, or oh, I'm gonna read this comic and then watch this again so that way I could find out like a little bit more about Ulysses Bloodstone, or I'm gonna watch it again and pick out all these little Easter eggs, or watch that first initial montage of the different monsters and see, oh, this is the monster from so-and-so, and that's Wendigo did fight Ulysses Bloodstone back then, or whatever. And so I would say that, yeah, I watched it again tonight. So that's 3 times that I've watched this already. And it didn't fly by. I actually thought it was a lot longer than the 56 minutes, but I had no problem watching it. So I can do this all day. And apparently the Rotten Tomatoes critics and audience agree. So this is actually a little bit higher than I would rank it. And even though I'm ranking it that I can do this all day, 91% fresh from the critics, and audience score of 93%. So that's pretty crazy.
If you think about that audience, they watched Hocus Pocus 2 last week, and now they got this. So huge upgrade.
Wasn't it? No, it was the same weekend, I think, wasn't it?
I don't know. because maybe I'm just talking about me.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Well,
But either way, huge upgrade.
yeah. But for the record, I did not think Hocus Pocus 2 was as bad as Hocus Pocus 1.
No, Hocus Pocus 2, the superior film.
Yeah.
Though it missed the Madonna outfits. That was it. That was the only thing I was missing.
If you haven't checked out our Hocus Pocus 1 and 2 review and an excellent wedge salad review, please tune into our previous episode of I Can Do This All Day podcast. But that wraps it up for Werewolf by Night. Once again, I'm Dan, the Part-Time Avenger. That's Mark, the Resident Jedi.
Like, subscribe, hit us up on Twitter at ICDT all day. I Can Do This All Day podcast on Instagram. Let us know if you can do this movie all day, if you want to see, or this special presentation, if there's more you want to see from it, if you're a fan of wedge salads, and if you've got anything that you want us to add to the queue to review. But like, subscribe, leave reviews out there. Hit us up on Apple Podcasts. We're stoked to hear from the viewers. Big ups to all of you, domestic, international, and interstellar. We're excited to hear from you.
This has been the I Can Do This All Day podcast. Wedge salad, bitch.